A Good Time in Central Africa is a pretty decent episode of 2.5 Men. This is the 9th episode of Season 8. It's directed by James Widdoes, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through things chronologically and share some thoughts. And we find out at the beginning that Berta is actually going to a family reunion, but she's arranged for her friend Esmerelda to fill in for her while she's away. And I will say it was a really slow start. The opening was really slow with just people taking money from Charlie, and then Charlie gives money to Alan. Obviously Charlie is drunk at this point, and then he hits his head on the table while wearing a helmet. It wasn't great. It wasn't the strongest start, but I'd say the rest of the episode was pretty decent. We then cut to Charlie coming down the stairs, still wearing the helmet, and then we meet Esmerelda, and she's played by Tonita Castro, and I love the character. I think she's brilliant, and she speaks only Spanish, and so we get subtitles on screen, and Alan is also happy to be back with Lyndsey. And I feel like that wasn't very well explained. I guess it's not a spoiler because it happened in a previous episode, but Lyndsey's ex came back into the picture, and then we were kind of just left dangling there. I don't think they kind of really explained what was happening there, but I guess one could argue that they've done it now, so it's not really a big issue, but it did just seem to come out of nowhere. We then have some fun dialogue between Alan and Esmerelda. As I said, I really like Esmerelda. I think she's a really great character, and her interactions with Alan in particular I rather liked, because Alan can speak Spanish, which is, it gives us some comedy because they can interact and Charlie doesn't know what's being said, and it's good fun. It works really well. We then cut to Charlie calling for Alan to come and see his bedroom, and it looks very different. There are flowers there. Esmerelda has done a great job. She even made a swan out of a towel, and she then cleaned the grill, the barbecue grill. She's done a great job, and it kind of awkwardly highlights the fact that maybe Berta isn't the best housekeeper, which, to be fair, is not new information. I do love Berta, but clearly Esmerelda is brilliant at this. And then Chris turns up at the door, Lyndsey's ex, of course, and he turns up with a gift for Alan. It's a photo of Chris and Lyndsey, and it's a really awkward exchange, and Alan's facial expressions are just brilliant, so I rather enjoyed that quite a lot. It does feel a bit random. It does kind of make Chris seem unhinged, and Alan's face was great, so I have no complaints about that part. Charlie goes into the kitchen, and Berta's back. Then Alan's there, and a rock comes through the window, and then somebody's at the door, and Alan screams. Turns out it's Esmerelda, and Alan does scream maybe one too many times. I think they maybe milked that a little bit more than it was worth. By the third or fourth time, it got a little bit old. We can tell that Alan's nervous and skittish, and he's going to scream, so it felt a little bit repetitive. But while Alan's dealing with that problem, Charlie has a problem of his own, because he has to try and decide what to do with Berta and Esmerelda, because now Esmerelda's gone, now that Berta's back, but he really, really misses her. So he comes up with a plan to basically have a 24-hour housekeeper. Berta will be the daytime housekeeper, and Esmerelda will be the nighttime housekeeper. And that seems like it could have worked. And then Berta catches them. She catches Esmerelda cutting Charlie's hair, and Charlie has to decide on the spot who he's going to keep. And he decides to keep Berta, which was obvious. That was always going to happen, but it was really sweet. And I think it was maybe a few episodes ago, I don't think it was the previous episode, it might have been, where Charlie admitted that he does love Berta, and it's just really nice to have that reinforced. Berta may not be the best housekeeper, she may not have the strongest work ethic, but she still means a lot to Charlie, and that is so lovely to see. However, after Esmerelda leaves, Charlie realises he might have made a mistake, and he still has the cape around his shoulders from his haircut, and he runs through the house and out the front door after her with the cape blowing in the wind behind him. Not that there's much wind indoors, but you know what I mean. And just as he goes out the door, Chris is standing in the doorway, and it's just a fun, chaotic ending, so I really thoroughly enjoyed that, and it kind of made up for how slow the beginning was. We had a very fast-paced, delightful ending to make up for the slow start. Everything in the middle, absolutely fine. Love Esmerelda as a character, and while it's probably never going to be my favourite episode, I think it's safe to say A Good Time in Central Africa is still a really decent, thoroughly enjoyable episode of 2.5 Men.